Lifestyle
with Alan T.
Joining me on the line now is a gentleman who's going to be talking to me about Prez. Now, what could a professional football academy do for this boy is the big question mark. Now, Andrew Prestwich, the true story narrated by Prez's barrister father is a warm, witty and intensely personal account of their attempt to navigate the world of grassroots and academy football. Well, it sounds rather complicated to me, but I know you're going to explain it to us. Welcome to the programme, Andrew.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
So, give us a bit of an introduction to this, and because I told you actually in my notes that I'm not a massive football follower, but obviously I was disappointed that Arsenal lost at the weekend, but they won't go anywhere near that.
No, you told me very kindly that you're more of a rugby man.
Yeah, I am, yeah.
And you'll be pleased to know that there is a little bit of rugby in this.
Okay.
There's a rather nice piece about a rugby match at school where an enthusiastic teacher decides that he's going to contrive to make the match a draw so that the little inter-house school tournament is tied. Charlie gets sent off, and there are various shenanigans that flow from that. So there is a bit of rugby in there.
Okay.
But fundamentally, as you've told the listeners already, this is a story that follows our journey, mine and Charlie's, through grassroots football. So amateur football, if you like, starting from a young age at under eights and going through 3 years of grassroots football and then 6 years in the Nottingham Forest Academy.
Wow.
But interwoven in all of this are various different themes, particularly education and justice. It's not just about football.
Mm-hmm. Well, I remember the era of Brian Clough and Robert Maxwell, as you talk about in the behind the scenes and the litigation between those two men.
Yes. Now, one of the aspects of this book is that it's not merely my biography of my son, somewhat elaborated. It is also to some degree an autobiography, and that is to say that there are various stories from my life, which are only the relevant ones, of course, which are introduced into the story. And one of the relevant ones was that in my life as a barrister, I shared a room with a senior practitioner in our chambers who had the brief to represent Brian Clough in litigation against Robert Maxwell.
Right.
And this was personal between the two men. And I say personal advisedly because, as you, I'm sure, will remember, these were two men who did not have any time for one another.
No.
And the reason for that is clear. These are men who both have egos.
Sure.
They're really very similar. Champagne socialists as well, the pair of them. And perhaps
slightly narcissistic as well, I would say.
I think that's right. And when Maxwell met his end, Clough said something like this: Robert Maxwell has an ego as big as his yacht. Perhaps that's why he fell off it.
I think I heard that comment. I do recall now. Yeah. My goodness me, yes.
So the litigation that was between them started in about late 88 or early 89. And it involved Maxwell having said something regrettable, such as Clough's a hooligan, something of that ilk. Clough took umbrage at this and brought the action with my roommate taking the litigation. Unfortunately, within a few days of us serving the papers, I was involved in this on a peripheral level only.
Right.
Brian Clough is involved in some shenanigans on the pitch, and that's because he is present at, of course, a Nottingham Forest home match. They win this match, and some supporters go on the pitch, and Clough isn't pleased about this, so he gets onto the pitch himself, dispenses some summary justice, and unfortunately clips some boys around the ear rather harder than might have been appropriate.
Sure.
That, you can imagine, is just a dream for local media. Fortunately, it's before the days of social media. And what happens in the litigation is that Maxwell, therefore, puts in a defence that says, well, you've just proven that you're a hooligan and what I said about you is right. There's then subsidiary litigation as to whether that should be dealt with as a preliminary issue or at trial. The judge says we're going to deal with all of this at trial. unfortunately, just before the trial, it was about 2 weeks before the trial was due to start, Maxwell fell into the sea, though I'm not trying to draw any link between those two. And unfortunately, you can't, in English law, sue someone who has died for defamation.
True.
And therefore, although I'd been promised a junior brief, I never got to represent Brian Clough.
You know that I'm recognising all this. It was all over the newspapers back in the day, without doubt. I mean, I remember all the shenanigans you say were going on, and the news that he'd fallen off his yacht. We kind of sort of received it with a okay. Was he pushed, or did he just sort of fall over? You know, but all those sort of rumours were flying around. But anyway, getting back to the story of yourself and Charlie, you say that this was all to do with the junior football and the Nottingham Forest Academy that he was involved in. Yes.
Yes, indeed. The Forest Academy were very keen to sign Charlie when he was about 10 years old, and he was there for 6 years.
Wow.
And so it's roughly 50-50, the book. First half of the book, just very approximately, is grassroots football, and the second half is time at Nottingham Forest. And I don't lecture in the course of the book. I don't apply my opinion too strongly. I tell the story. I allow readers to draw their own conclusions. And then at the end, I just happen to throw in as the epilogue a little report from the FA, which constitutes their own investigation into the Nottingham Forest Academy.
Really?
And having read that, I hope that readers will draw the conclusion that, as indeed it says on the cover, this is a warm, witty and true tale.
Well, without giving too much away, can you give us maybe a couple of examples of what we can expect to find in the book about all of the characters, the skillfulness, the kindness, the injustices, the duplicity, and at times downright stupidity that you met along the way?
Yes, I think I can do that. You might find that the most interesting aspect of this is that one of the Nottingham Forest coaches claimed and appeared genuinely to believe that the earth is flat.
Really?
He was a clear advocate of the notion that the earth is flat, and he would not accept that the earth is round. That's just a conspiracy, apparently. The earth is flat.
Amazing.
Now, once you've got a coach who thinks like that, it's quite difficult to take him seriously.
Well, yeah. I mean,
whether that falls into the category of stupidity is another matter.
I like it. Yeah, I mean, but the thing is that I suppose, well, okay, so you kick a ball and it sort of goes across the field. I don't know.
Yes, well,
obviously, I have my opinions about that kind of approach to the existence of a flat world, but I can imagine young kids sort of thinking, what's this all about?
Yes. Well, it wasn't something that he told the kids about.
Well,
it wasn't something that he raised with them in the course of... Oh, they found out, yes.
Yeah. And as you say, that sort of led to, I suppose, the understanding or the not understanding of how to deal with someone like that, as you say, as a coach.
Well, yeah, it's difficult for adults to take him seriously once he's done that. But
sure.
even the head of the academy made reference to this coach and his belief in the flat earth when talking to me. And indeed, that conversation is set out in the book. But I think that the conversation that I found most satisfying to write was the one which Charlie himself, Charlie being, of course, Prez being the nickname for my son at Forest.
I was going to ask you that,
the head of the academy.
Sorry, say that again. Sorry, I missed that.
It's unfortunate there's a slight delay on the line, isn't there?
Sorry.
Travelling so far, the wording. So the head of the academy has a chat with Charlie. Charlie is wanting to leave because he can see that this is not going to lead anywhere. He's not going to be staying at Nottingham Forest. He's told Forrest that he wants to stay at school for the sixth form. Forrest have made it clear that they're not interested in taking on at 16 as an apprentice a boy who's staying at school. Really it can be done, and the book sets out how it can be done, but they won't do that. And they probably wouldn't have wanted him in any event. But he goes to see the head of the academy. And that conversation I set out in the course of the book, and it becomes quite clear that the head of the academy was a great Charlie fan, and we'd known that throughout. He was a very good coach, Gary, the academy head, and he gave Charlie lots of sensible advice. But ultimately, unfortunately, it didn't lead anywhere. Save that, of course, it meant that Charlie was ultimately able to go on to do other things. So I have no regrets about what happened. Right. And the way that it left might have been unsavoury in some respects, and I'll leave the details for the readers to find out in due course. But I have no regrets because he's gone on to establish himself in other fields.
Well, you go on in the book, you talk about the unique insight into the purchase and sale of Notts County by Alan Hardy, and also discussing with other well-known football figures pop up, including Darren Fletcher and Gary Brazil, and the academy manager at Nottingham Forest, who once said to Andrew, "You watch everything that goes on here." Is that what you did? You sort of very close to it.
Not only did I watch what went on, I wrote down careful notes about what went on.
Hence the book.
And those notes were extra, yes. I'd almost written the book before I started writing it.
Crikey. Well, it's to say, the book is called Prez, who was Charlie's nickname. What could a professional football academy do for this boy? Now, it's based on your diaries. It's rich in anecdotes, and I'm going to ask you to give us one more before I let you go. Andrew Prestwich brings the lawyer's head and a father's heart to the world of junior football. I was very sort of disappointed, not what you said, but the whole idea that they would sort of not encourage him to sort of, finish his academic work in school just for the sake of, getting into football. I do find that rather distressing.
Yes. It's very unfortunate because, as you know, there's a high proportion now of students in England and Wales who go to university. It's not a minority activity as it was 40, 50 years ago.
Sure.
And to go to university, fundamentally, it helps to have A-levels. You can only get those A-levels by post-16 education. And if you're leaving... If you're leaving school to do football, yes, there is a non-A-level qualification that comes alongside it, but it's not going to get you into a top university to do a top course. And it's a real shame that the clubs, for the most part, not all of them fall into this category, but for the most part, won't allow boys to stay.
They still apply it?
As far as I'm aware, they are.
Shocking.
Most of them won't allow it.
I'm disgusted. That is shocking.
It's quite inappropriate.
Yes.
And there's no need for it because, in fact...
Indeed not.
And again, it's in the book, but in my conversation with Gary, we were able to see exactly how the dual week, that is half at school and half with the academy, could be made to work in the sixth form. Yep. It just needed a bit of goodwill on both sides. The head teacher at the school could see it would work. Gary could see it would work. But overwhelmingly, the clubs aren't interested.
Amazing. And that thing still exists, you're saying?
I think that's how it still works for the most part. But there are clubs who will allow boys to stay at school and take a greater interest in education. And the two that I mention in the book are Manchester City and Leicester City. There are probably others, but I haven't been doing a review of every football club in the country. This is very much a personal tale.
Understood. Prez, what could a professional football academy do for this boy? Written by Andrew Prestwich, who is the father of Charlie, the boy in question here. And I wish you a lot of success with the book. It's fascinating because I think it was going back at that particular time, an interesting sort of era, both in the football world and, of course, in politics as well. And I would think readers will find it quite fascinating. Obviously, you can obtain information about the book from our book site on TRE.radio, and of course, it takes you to the usual sort of outlets for the book. Andrew, it's been a real pleasure talking to you today. Thanks for joining us here on the program, and I wish you a lot of success with the book.
Thank you very much for inviting me on. It's been a pleasure.
It has indeed, and thanks very much for your time.